Hi, I'm Holly. Welcome back to my channel, Lipedema. So today I wanted to do an update with you on my WEGOVY journey because I am 559 days in, so about a year and 8 months into my journey. And I started at the heaviest that I've ever been in my adult life, which was 260 pounds. And I am currently, well, I'll tell you that in a minute because there's actually been a plateauing of my weight, and that's been a reason that I've been thinking about making the change to another GLP-1 medication, ZEPBOUND. People also call this one Manjaro. And ZEPBOUND has been really effective for a couple of friends who are on it. So my best friend is now on ZEPBOUND, and I also have another friend that I've known since I was in 9th grade who's on ZEPBOUND and really seeing great results. I've been excited about the idea of ZEPBOUND because I still have some odd side effects that are related to the WEGOVY that I'm kind of hoping, and I don't necessarily have a reason to think this, but I'm hoping that it won't happen on the ZEPBOUND, and I won't know until I try it. So the main side effect that it has still lingered, right, even though most of them have gone away. Like every once in a while I'll have some breakthrough nausea, which really isn't too difficult to manage. But the one thing that has really kind of lingered has been this weird sensation that I have on my skin. I've come to think of it as like inflammation. I've noticed that it's always later in the day that it becomes like worse and worse. So about 6 p.m. or so every day, I have a couple of Tylenols. That helps it. And then by the time I go to bed, it's very manageable, but it begins to kind of bother me around like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And so I think it's like an inflammation thing that's getting steadily worse throughout the day. But it almost feels like it almost registers as a chill. This feeling of being cold or chilly, but also almost a little bit painful. So definitely some kind of a tingly feeling. And I know other people have reported it. Some people have said that it's like paresthesia, I think is the medical term for it. My son, who is also on WEGOVY, did have this experience, but his went away after a while. So I was kind of surprised to see that mine really lingered. So the hope is that if I go onto ZEPBOUND, that won't be an issue anymore, and I will be able to enjoy the benefits of the medication without having this weird thing where I kind of feel like I need to take a Tylenol literally every day of my life. And it's kind of like, I've had the test case, like, is it in my head where I've gone days where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to try and see what it feels like, and then have really gotten to the point where it almost raises my anxiety because it seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse, and I need to like do something to stop it. So it is a part of my experience right now, but it's the only negative that I can say. Everything else has been just wonderful with this medication, and it's been a really meaningful difference for me. So I am not going to go on this ZEPBOUND until I find out whether or not I can kind of stabilize for a little bit longer at the weight that I'm at. And that's my good news story. So today is February. I think we're at February 9th right now. And as I go back over my phone and look back to the first time that I kind of hit the sub 160, somewhere around October of last year, I have myself at 157.8. I went back up to 161 a couple of days later, but then have kind of stayed below that 160 point since that time. So that's exciting, right? So below 160. At the time, I was a little bit worried because I was seeing some changes in my body where I'm like, oh, not all of these are great. Like, definitely my padunkadunk has kind of turned into a padunkadon't. So I've just lost a lot of that action back there, which I knew it happens. Ozempic butt is real, right? But it's the price worth paying, in my opinion, right? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not having as much action in my trunk as I used to. So that's okay. But when I look at like the totality of my experience and how my body's changing, knowing that I'm also pre-surgery for lipedema. So for folks who aren't tracking, I do have lipedema, and my lipedema is mostly in my knee and below area on my legs. I definitely have some in my arms as well. And I haven't had my surgery yet. I've seen a lot of reduction in some of the inflammation, some of the pain, some of the tenderness, not so much with the bruising, having been on WEGOVY. So there's definitely been some help with the symptoms, and it's helped me to lose some weight. But as you can see if you looked at my video where I kind of did the analysis, I am definitely about 3 times more likely to keep the weight in the areas where I have lipedema than I am in other areas. So when you look at weight loss across the different areas of my body, and I did some really, really specific measuring over the course of a year, that was about, the multiplier was about 3x. So I lost weight and inches 3x faster in all of the areas where I didn't have lipedema versus the areas where I do. So I've made the decision that I absolutely need to move forward to have this surgery because gosh only knows, like, this has been a huge intervention, right? It's a medical intervention where I had to be under a doctor's care to be on WEGOVY, and hopefully I'll be on WEGOVY for the rest of my life. Fingers crossed that there won't be something in my coverage that doesn't allow me to stay on the medication. But I know that I don't want to take a chance on that. I want to make sure that I'm treating the lipedema in those areas where I absolutely know that it's much more challenging for me. So the other thing that I have in my mind is that I could lose a couple of more pounds in fat from having that lipedema surgery done, and I'm in the process of getting approved for that surgery again. I've been approved multiple times before, but as folks who've been watching the channel know, sometimes it can be really, really difficult to find a doctor who's able to do this surgery, who's willing to do the surgery for what insurance will pay them, and also who has the skill, if I'm honest, to do this surgery. Okay, so I have been thinking about this, and I went to see my doctor around that time last year, around the October time frame, to say, hey, I've continued to notice that I'm losing weight, and I just want to make sure that I'm being healthy. So what is the, like, we have a problem weight, right? Because honestly, it's not anything that I'm doing that's driving the weight loss. So if that sounds strange, let me kind of clarify that. Currently I have a trainer. He's amazing. I work with him 2 to 3 times a week, and he's wonderful. And we've been together now for about 6 months, maybe even going on to like 8 months. It's the same trainer that my boyfriend uses, the same trainer that my son uses as well, and he's just wonderful. However, I had already lost probably 90 pounds-ish before I even started working out with him. And I can honestly say it wasn't anything that I was doing. It was 100% the WEGOVY. Honestly, my symptoms, like the sort of side effects that I was having initially, were so strong that I really didn't work out very much at all, and couldn't even do what I would say was my regular level of activity, because I was having so many bouts of nausea, and because I was having these weird, sort of chills, and just generally not feeling well. So it really limited my ability to kind of be as active as I had been previously. Meanwhile, as I look back on it, I think it was just more about not adulting the right way. Like, I just wasn't doing enough to make sure that I had food in my stomach. I was letting maybe acid build up in my stomach that was making me nauseous. So I was kind of creating this, like, this repeated cycle of nausea that was making it harder for me to get food. So it took a little while for me to figure that out, start doing simple things like drinking water, more water anyway, and also keeping little bars in my purse and using the cues around from people around me to know it's time to go eat. Like, come on, diva, go eat. So once I figured that out, then things became a little bit more manageable. But I say all of that to say this: I wasn't doing anything that led to that weight loss. That was the WEGOVY. So after a point, like, you kind of expect it to stop, and you're told, maybe you'll lose 15% of your weight, maybe you'll lose 20% of your weight. And so as those numbers kind of went by, I had a goal weight. That goal weight was 175. I blew by 175, and I was like, that's interesting, because I haven't done anything to get here. So the question became in my mind, how do I stop it when I don't want to lose any more? Now, there's a good problem to have, right? Like, that's a problem I haven't had to think about in my adult life. So it was definitely one of those, like, when you bring it up to your doc, it's like, hey, this might sound silly, but, like, when should I be concerned? Because I don't necessarily feel like I'm in control of what's happening here, and I plan on working out more. I plan on now becoming more active, so I want to make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to do to keep the weight that I have, because I don't necessarily want to go any lower. So it was good. I mean, obviously, when you're on WEGOVY, you're under a physician's care. So, like, I was getting regular body scans to determine, if I was losing any muscle, along with the fat, which is a bad thing, and also for him to give me advice on, how much protein I should be taking in, which exercises to avoid, and that was basically anything that was cardio, because I just didn't have enough calories coming in to kind of combat that. So he really wanted me to focus on things that were going to help me build muscle. So that's kind of where that's been my wheelhouse. That's what I work on with my trainer, and he's amazing. It's good because he has this way of helping me work out with like the tiniest weights or like bands, and somehow like it looks like I'm doing nothing if you're just a third party like kind of watching it happen, but oh my gosh, is it effective. He's wonderful. And if you want to know, if you want a referral, like please drop me a note in the messages below, the comments, and I'll hook you up. So having talked with him, he was like, this is where we want you to be, is like kind of in this little envelope. And he was like, basically from a weight perspective, he's like, I think you're good to go. We're not concerned about the weight you are, but if you go below 150, then let's have another conversation. And I took that very seriously. I think once upon a time, I was like 145 pounds. It was for a very brief moment after I had my son, slightly before I joined the military, where I was really working out, trying to get in shape for the military, and also trying to lose all of the baby weight. Still had the same proportions from the lipedema, but was definitely much, much smaller. And at 145, 147-ish, I didn't think I looked particularly healthy. I wish I had a picture that I could share, but generally speaking, I really did not like taking pictures of myself for a really long time. I can't really prove that I existed before the Army, if I'm honest. So I don't have a picture, but I know that I did not feel like it was a good look for me in the few photos that I've seen subsequently. I no longer have them, but I've seen a picture of myself at that weight and didn't think it was particularly healthy looking. And I think that's because of the lipedema, I will continue to lose weight in my face, in certain parts of my body, but not in my legs, certainly not in my calves, not in my arms. And so it just ends up being this sort of, I lose it in the places where you would want to have a little bit more of that softness. So it just made me look a little bit harder, I think, when I look back on those times. So hearing him say 150, that resonated with me. He also drew the line that, hey, if you're going to have surgeries, like you might already be there right now. Like if we take away, the few pounds that you may or may not lose, because it's not going to be like a one-to-one, just because they suck out that much fat doesn't mean that that's going to equate to that change on the scale. So there's water and all of the other things that come out when you're doing like water-assisted lipo too. But he's like, knowing that you may lose some additional weight related to the lipedema, and we don't exactly know what it'll look like after your surgeries, like how you'll hold on to weight after that. So that's kind of where we want to be. So I've been trying to hold on and make sure that I was keeping myself in that window, which is, somewhere between, I told myself 155 is really where I want to be. And that gives me like a 5-pound buffer, because you'd be surprised how quickly things can go down. As an example, when we went on the cruise, I came back from the cruise 100% sure that I had gained weight, and okay with that, because I know that I've got the weight to gain, and I had actually lost 3 pounds, which I was fascinated by, and not in a good way, right? So that's been something that I've been just kind of keeping track of. And so now we're talking about, it's been 4 months since I first kind of registered below that 160. And as of today, I am 158.5. So I'm still staying in that area and feel really comfortable that I'm able to do it while working out. So I'm still going to my trainer and eating the things that I want to eat. Probably, if I'm honest, a little bit too much candy, which is a WEGOVY thing. I know it sounds like I'm not taking any responsibility for my stuff, but I will say this: I never had a sweet tooth before WEGOVY. I could eat sweets, and I liked sweets, but I never like craved them. And now I can't pass a candy bar. So I'm wondering if that's a weird thing. Like, am I not getting enough of something in my diet that's kind of where I go? But I do try to focus on the protein. So maybe it's just a natural thing where I eat so much protein that I'm like, I want something sweet. I don't know. Who knows? So that's where I am today. Really happy to say 4 months where I've been able to really stick to it and not lose any more. And I think that's a great indicator that I've sort of hit the plateau. Like, this is the no joke. We're at a good space. Like, this is what the 2.4 milligram Wegovy has done for me. That it's gotten me from well, not just 2.4 milligram, because obviously I had to work my way up to that, but Wegovy has taken me from 260 pounds down to 158 pounds over the course of, really, it's been about a year and, you know, a little less than a year and a half, if I'm honest, because that's where I stopped sort of like losing weight, and it's just been kind of like leveled out, and it definitely slowed down. I have a whole video that kind of charts my course if you want to see that, but I'm really excited. So I think I'm going to do a couple more months, have my next check-in with Dr. Ali, who is amazing. He's bariatric doctor in the Northern Virginia area, and has just been a wonderful, wonderful resource for me on this journey. So the next time that I check in with him, I'm going to reconfirm with him that we're doing well, holding weight in a good way, talk a little bit about that weird candy thing, but then hopefully be able to make the transition to ZEPBOUND and see if my weird little tingles go away. So anyway, I hope this video finds you well. If you're on a Wegovy journey, please comment below if you're having the tingles or something similar to it. Be really curious to know if anyone who had that feeling of tingling or weird skin sensation and made the change to ZEPBOUND has seen a difference. Fingers crossed. When I do make the change, hopefully in the next couple of months with my doctor's permission, then I'll come back to you and let you know if there's any change or updates from that. But all right, well, it's been great checking in. I'll talk to you soon. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.